My incarceration began in 2002 when I was 20 years old, and I was released when I was 30 in 2012. I mean, when I think about when I started my incarceration, I was 20 years old, and you don't know a whole lot at 20 years old. And so as I started to mature within different institutions, I started to think about how I got to where I was at, and it led me to start trying to peel back the layers in terms of figuring out and then what I needed to do to also advance myself. Incarceration, it taught me how to be alone. It's the biggest thing that it taught me. Anybody that's been incarcerated knows that being there is one of the most loneliest experiences that you'll ever have. Transitioning out, you have to, sometimes less is more. And so you have to figure out how to unlearn a lot of things that you might have learned growing up and then relearn a bunch of other things. And so doing that has been a challenge for me, but I think also figuring out how to stand by myself and be confident enough to lean into discomfort. You apply for a job, you hear no. Being a felon, you're able to be legally discriminated against, right? People can tell you no, they can disposition you from different things. And I heard no over and over again. When I started to go to school, I remember talking to a group. I said, if they tell me no with my associate's degree, let's see what happens when I get my bachelor's degree. This was before I had even gotten there, right? And I was pursuing my bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree, got an opportunity. But even then, my mind frame was if they tell me no with a bachelor's degree, let's see if they tell me no with a master's degree, right? And so I kept manifesting these different steps for myself, trying to figure out how to combat those certain situations as well. And I always tell people not to put limitations on yourself. Despite the challenges, I'm a person now that I won't take no for an answer. If there's something that I set out to achieve, I'm gonna work until I get there, despite who's gonna help me, what's in my way, any of those types of things. I'm gonna figure out how to navigate it and get to an end result. I guess I'm most proud of having gotten my son through high school. On top of that, I was able to work my way through some education of my own. I got my associate's degree and then ended up working my way through getting my MBA here just in 2020. Being an HR business partner, I'm responsible for a number of different things, primarily staffing for a couple of different business units in northern Wisconsin, northeast Wisconsin, as well as throughout the state of Michigan. What we do is staff level entry construction workers, laborers, operators. Sometimes we might hire interns, but I also help with a lot of other business functions as far as disciplinary action, coaching, business development things. We do a lot of outreach that I'm involved in, and I also help with some of our diversity and inclusion efforts. I feel like I have a responsibility to share my story. I came home from United States Penitentiary Terre Haute in 2012, and there were a lot of folks that were never gonna be able to come home again. And so for me, it was my second opportunity. And I was gonna make the most of it. And when you start to consider different challenges that exist for people that are re-entering or transitioning back into society, is very important. It gives other people hope, right? Sometimes I might be a beacon of hope. The program might be a beacon of hope, but we all need that in certain places in order to encourage change. It took me 10 years to tell my story. Right? And I first did it through the SNC talk in the framework of doing a TED Talk, but that was a super powerful experience for me. And for the longest time, I tried to stay away from my story or having been incarcerated because it always had the potential to hurt me. It took a lot of courage for me to get to that place in my life, telling my story to try and encourage and help other community members, again, as well as decision makers that exist throughout my community, is important, so that when it comes to creating laws or making a decision when somebody comes to the door that might have been incarcerated, to give them another opportunity or to reconsider how they're thinking about those individuals is important to me.